not only improvements in triglycerides and HDL and small dense LDL, but also a fall in the hemoglobin A1c. And the low carb, high fat diet has a greater benefit in the hemoglobin A1c, which I'll explain in a moment, than does a calorie matched high carb, low fat diet. So hemoglobin A1c is the red colour in your blood is hemoglobin, and when sugar's sticky, it sticks to everything. And it sticks to the red colour in your blood. That's hemoglobin A1c, means more or less glucose stuck to it. Here it is here. And the handy thing about hemoglobin is that it hangs around in your blood for 3 months. So the amount of glucose that's stuck onto your hemoglobin reflects what your glucose levels have been for the last 3 months. So it's a very handy way to judge. Now, if you go onto a low carb, high fat diet and improve everything within weeks, the hemoglobin is not going to A1c is not going to change because it remembers all the glucose levels that you've had over the last 3 months. So the hemoglobin A1c takes at least 3 months to change after a low carb, high fat diet. I haven't got my results in a graph, but my A1c wasn't too bad. It was 5.4, which is upper limits of normal. It fell to 5.2 after the first 3 months, and I thought, oh, that's not very impressive. Well, it's now 4.8 because it's a year later. So hemoglobin A1c, such an important figure, at least as important as triglyceride, because the amount of sugar stuck to hemoglobin, i.e. the average amount of glucose in your blood, as the hemoglobin A1c level rises, so does your risk of coronary disease, of dying, of heart attacks, of strokes. It rises exponentially. Now, we say that when your hemoglobin A1c is above 6.5%, you have diabetes. You've not only got a really high risk of cardiovascular disease and so on, but you've got the risk of eye disease and kidney disease and so on. We want to get that A1c down out of that danger zone. But the cardiovascular risk didn't start to rise when you were diabetic. It started to rise way back here. That represents years and years before you develop the diabetes. So most people that have heart disease or heart attacks in Australia are not diabetic, they're pre-diabetic. They're on the pathway to diabetes, but the heart attack got them first. So the way to interpret the hemoglobin A1c, in general terms, because labs are slightly different, 4.5 to 5.5% is what your A1c should be if you want to be away from cardiovascular risk, away from that progression to diabetes. If you're in the 5.6 to 6.4 range, you're on the road to diabetes. You have to do something. If you're above 6.5%, you've got diabetes, but there is hope there. If you're a young diabetic and you get everything right, you can cure yourself of diabetes.